Okay. So I'm fairly confident that you know what's going on top of the picture. So it's what you see out of the window after a long, exhausting flight descending to your destination airport. So I had the opportunity to go back to the hometown every vacation since my childhood with my parents. And every flight I would beg to sit next to the window. Excuse me. So no, I wasn't looking at the scenery outside, and in fact I was looking at how each part of the plane moved, and especially those parts on the wings. And whenever I discover something new, I would go back home, look up the encyclopedia or some aviation articles, and then whenever I understood the functions, I would, on the next flight, I would introduce them to my parents. So, interested about those things I learned from the windows, sitting next to windows of the planes, I decided to study more about the underlying system of air traveling and aviation. And I decided to start reading some operation manuals online about modern airliners such as the A320 or the Boeing 777. And this opened me further to the joy and wonder of flight. So after I entered high school, during dinner time, my parents and I would sit around a table and we would discuss issues about airlines such as why are planes delayed. And then soon after, I founded a virtual community, online community called Swiss International Airline Virtual, which during weekends, simulator pilots like I and a few friends will fly around the world and then welcomed by local people acting as air traffic control. And then not only did I enjoy those glimmers of the world as well as the globalism, more importantly, I learned to follow procedures. So this is an example of what we do, not only like simulator pilots, but also like real-life pilots do during each phase of the flight, where we will carry out a checklist, or in this case, an electronic checklist, to make sure that no action is left out, which may jeopardize the safety of a flight. So while it might be very abstract or hard to understand in aviation terms, I'm gonna put into a more daily term. So let's say it's a normal Monday morning, and then after a long weekend, so you decided to leave home for work. And then you're going to run through a checklist. For example, have I turned off all the electronic appliances, all the lights off? And then have I put everything in my backpack? For example, my laptop, documents to sign, and etc. So after you completed this checklist, you're pretty sure that this phase of your day, especially going to work, will not go wrong. So besides aviation, I also have, as introduced just now, I have the additional interest in aerospace engineering. And with some of my friends who are also interested in engineering, we decided to found a club. And namely, we have hands-on experience on building drones. And similarly, we would establish a checklist. So the parts we have to buy, order from online, and then the parts we have to test the systems, and finally put it together. And as we expected, the drones took to the skies one by one. So all my experiences let me conclude to one thing, what I call the checklist, which means when you have a goal, you're going to create a checklist, which consists of each item that is vital for you to contribute to achieving this goal. And after you completed each of them, you would logically succeed. Well, of course, there are exceptions, right? For example, you hear about air crashes even when pilots totally follow their procedures, and there's simply something outside the checklist that is unaccounted for that causes crash. So once we were experimenting on an agile drone, and this drone rolled down the runway faster than any of other drones that we built. However, the nose won't lift and the aircraft wouldn't take off. So after this incident, we decided to build, we brought the drone back to the club, and we decided to investigate. And what we realized is the elevator, or whatever determines the pitch of the aircraft, is not deflecting enough. So after some minor fixes, the drone took to the skies as we expected. So after that, I came up with a checklist to fix a checklist. And then those include some major steps. And for example, what happened? And then what went wrong, or what went bad that needs to be fixed? And then subsequently, what can be done to fix this problem? And then the most important step is, what can we take to prevent this kind of error from happening again? So although it may sound redundant or sometimes even annoying, applying a checklist to daily life can prevent us from forgetting many steps that is necessary and might eliminate some mistakes that we might make that can be potentially very costly. Well, however, I've been living this fantasy. Well, I mean, it is a fantasy where everything can be solved by a checklist and it will guarantee success. So I'm pretty sure everybody here will be going through or has already gone through a process that's very important in their life, which is college applications. So starting from this time about last year, I started to do some research on schools, and then, I made my own checklist, of course. And then I would say, let's say, I will complete my test scores, send them to schools, do some interviews, and then, applied all my experience learning on internships or whatever extracurricular activity that I have fun in on my application, that I get my essays revised and make them seem good. And then after I tick each item on my checklist, I submitted my application. And well, according to my previous logic, this would mean that I would pretty much be successful and get an acceptance, right? So 2 months has passed, and then that acceptance never came. So on the day of the release of the admission, I decided to check the portal and skip to the last sentence, and it said, well, we appreciate the efforts you spent on applying to our college, but due to the competitiveness of the application form, we're unable to offer you admission. So that day I ended up staring at the ceiling while going through the checklist to fix a checklist. Well, what went wrong? So I got rejected. And then was it because I did something wrong? Well, my scores are decent. Well, I got my essays revised several times. And then, well, my extracurricular activity was not inferior to any others. So why did I get rejected? Well, I was utterly confused. So that day after school, there was a phone call. And then I'm very familiar that most of you will know what's going on. So on the other end of the phone, there was a voice, and very gentle. And he said, 嘉定区110平米的公寓靠近地铁11号线，先生感兴趣吗? So for those of you who are not familiar with Shanghai, this is a real estate agent introducing an apartment in suburban Shanghai near line 11 of subway. And then, of course, logically, I would reply to him, no thanks, and I would hang up the phone. However, this phone call left me thinking that day, so what would make this real estate agent so motivated and optimistic, even when he's being probably rejected by hundreds of people that he has already called today and might not have gotten a single positive response? So ironically, I decided to go back to the checklist. And then, so what went wrong? Well, he got rejected. Well, did he do something bad? Well, first of all, is it an apartment? Well, I've never seen an apartment. And then apartment that is 110 square meters large sounds like a decent and cozy home to anybody. And it's near one of the most advanced subway systems in the world. So there's nothing wrong with the apartment. So is there something wrong with, let's say, the way that this real estate agent introduced it? Well, he's using a gentle and friendly voice that is very acceptable. And then the way he introduced each detail of this apartment showed professional skills in real estate agents. Well, then why did he get rejected? So as many of you might logically conclude, just like me who's a student and many people who might already have a home apartment, we simply do not need a home. So this is something out of the real estate agent's control, which might lead to we rejecting to check out the apartment. So the next day, I decided to continue on the remaining of my college applications, and then I'm trying to apply this analogy. So let's say I'm the real estate agent. I'm trying to sell this apartment. So namely, my previous achievements, extracurricular or like academic achievements to customers, or in this case, universities or colleges. And then, so although it might seem like the previous colleges I applied to, or like which I didn't get accepted, might be a wash. The efforts I spent might be wasted. However, that is not the case, because without applying to some colleges, you might never be accepted to at least one college. Just like the real estate agent, he cannot expect the first person he calls to agree to check out an apartment. And it might be like hundreds of people he calls until one person finally accepts this offer and goes to check out the apartment. And however, it is very important that we must maintain this professional skill or professional attitude and apply our own effort to each step or each trial in this process in order for us to get a satisfactory result. So this is what I conclude as a salesman's mindset as opposing to the checklist that I just said before, where our original progress might seem to be a wash, and then acceptance or let's say a positive result or success might only come after you have hundreds of trials. And I'm pretty sure everybody here will be successful, but if you apply the right mindset, well, not being stuck in an engineer or like a checklist while doing a salesman's work, you'll be more motivated when doing your work, and especially more content and satisfied with your results that you're getting. Thank you.